Says, will your podcast stuff work for getting my clients on podcasts? Jake says, has anybody created any VSLs for their pay-per-lead programs that they wouldn't mind sharing? Adrian says, anyone have some DM scripts for booking new clients in cold outreach? Too legit to quit. What's up, guys? I was just dropping some MC Hammer references, but I think those came a little before it goes live. There's always a little delay, so I never know when we're actually live. But excited to see you guys. And you guys are kicking ass, building what I think are the coolest businesses in this world. A couple of big announcements that I think have the capacity to be like fucking dynamite in your hands for what you guys are doing. The first is I am in the process of writing book 2, and it is all about creating recurring revenue and what I consider the holy grail of internet marketing to be passive, automated, recurring income. In other words, something that you set up once that pays you over and over and over and over and over again into the future, and is relatively easy to set up. So I have no idea when that process will finish, but you guys will be the first to know about it when it is done, and I'm stoked to get that into your hands. So that's the first thing I wanted to tell you guys. Second thing is we are doing some major facelifts to the Wolfpack right now, and one of the things that I think will be really useful for you is I wanted it to make it the most boring thing in the world. Like the most boring, tried and true weight loss thing is just like exercise and eat well, right? And I want to make the Wolfpack the most boring, predictable, works every time kind of fundamentals, and then give you guys massive amounts of help, tools, and swipe files, and get away from what everybody else is doing. I've seen like the NFTs come and go, the TikTok agency, the AI chatbots are super hot right now. There's always something, but when we build our stuff around boring fundamentals that have longevity, you build yourself up not just for success one time, but like to carry that, 10 years into the future or longer, however, whatever your goals are. And then so I put a link for that. I should mention there's always a link in the comments to the Wolfpack. You guys can check out the latest video, but I think you're going to find it super sexy. If you guys got an agency where you're ready to go phoneless, meetingless, and get away from what I consider the unnecessary grind, then that's going to be hella exciting. And then the third thing is we just actually launched a course last night. I didn't do it like a ton of hoopla or anything like that, but it is for those of you guys who don't want to run this business the way everybody else says you have to be, like a digital door-to-door salesperson where you're just fucking harassing people for business all day long, and doing it where you're an expert, where people come to you and say, hey, you're the expert, can you help me? And people who've already listened to enough of your stuff to know that, like, you for the most part, like, they have an idea of who you are, what you do, how much it costs, how you may be able to help them, and that's already established before they even initiate a conversation with you. And so I find them much easier to help. I find it a much better overall business model. So for those of you guys, I will put a link actually right now. You can check that out. And one of my favorite ways of accomplishing that is through podcasts, because it's super easy to get on them. In fact, we get on podcasts with 3 sentences, and I wouldn't say I bat 1,000, but I've probably done a few hundred, and for the most part, like, I'm pitching podcasts. They're not like randomly reaching out to me, but in doing so, creating all this expert inbound that we talked about. And I hope I just put the link there. Okay, Evan. But I think it's just a way cooler for you way of doing business for you guys, is to bring people to you who are pre-sold on working with you rather than doing what everybody else is doing and chasing. So if you guys are interested, check that out. It's like $89, $100, something like that. And the amount of cool shit that's in there, like, people have paid 15 grand for that kind of stuff. So dig it, dig it, dig it. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. Still got a little bit of a cold. Anywho, let's start with Kevin. And you guys are asking deep stuff, kind of logistical stuff here, which I really like. He says, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is your whole phoneless funnel. I've got the 5-minute loom video. What else is there? Everything else that it entails, so I can start running traffic to it, paid or organic. So I have appointments and make offers. Well, I'll give you the other kind of pieces to the puzzle, Kevin, because what you're kind of saying is what a lot of people have said to me. If I have people reaching out to initiate conversations with me, or I have people saying, yes, I'm interested in seeing your video, then I send them the video. But how do I, even the step before that, how do I get people to like actually, want to watch the video? And there's really 2 steps before that, and one of those is what I call a hand raiser, which is getting people to like initiate, hey, I'm curious to know what's in that video, I'd like to watch it. And then there's a brief sort of text interaction where you give them some details, and then you send them the video. And then, obviously you do that process right. You just get I'm in and payments, or sometimes a question or 2, and you can just answer those by text. You can do them by call if you want to, but those are 5-minute calls instead of 90-minute, sales and prospecting calls. So let's talk about those first 2 pieces. Like, what are they and how do they work? The first piece, and I go into great detail with examples of this inside our Loom course, by the way, as well, our self-paced Loom, but there's an example of things called a hand raiser. And I'll tell you the easiest one for most of you guys to wrap your head around it is the booked appointment bros. So a hand raiser is a summary of the offer. And an offer is not your service, by the way. An offer is like what's going to get done for how much money. It's the meaningful specifics. It's like the difference between saying, if I go to the restaurant tonight, I'm going to get fed. But it's like, but yeah, what am I going to get fed? How much money is it? And, what sides come with it. Like the details matter, right? So like that's the difference. It's the difference between doing versus getting done. And the way we do the reason why the booked appointment bros, even though it's like an overdone offer and everybody sends the same copy and paste bullshit, the one thing that made it like really take off in the first place, like why there's so many copycats and why it at least worked for somebody sometime somewhere before too many copycats sort of ruined it, was the offer is clear. I'm going to get you 100 people on your calendar or whatever it is, right? So like it's a clear value proposition of what's going to get done. So you want to think about whatever your hand raiser is as a summary of the offer. And so this means if I run a Facebook ad, it's a summary of the offer. If I run an organic post, it's a summary of the offer. If I make a YouTube video, it's a summary of the offer. If I send an email, it's a summary of the offer. So that's how we always initiate the conversation. And this is interesting because it allows you as a litmus test to know whether or not people would buy it. For example, if the booked appointment bros say, hey, is anybody here interested in booked appointments? And nobody raises their hand and says, hey, I'd like to know more about how you guys are booking appointments. Nobody says me. Well, nobody's going to buy it later with more sales conversations and funnels and all those kind of things. So it's an easy litmus test. If hands will go up, people will likely buy it. So then what happens is people will say, yes, like send me some info on it. And you say, is it cool if I send you a video? But before we do, I always like to add in what I call the qualifying conversation. And again, I go into these details in the Loom self-paced training for those of you guys who haven't seen it yet. The qualification is like just getting really clear about who you can actually help. I know it sounds like overly kind of basic, but you'd be amazed that like in the beginning, like I guess personally, I was really naive and thought I could help any client anywhere to like explode their business because I had figured out a few marketing tactics that worked. And what I found is after you had a bunch of clients that some of them hated you and it didn't work for at all, and some of them loved you and thought your shit was amazing, and after a while, if that happens enough time, you'll recognize that there's patterns in both of those. And so what we want to do is focus on the people who our stuff worked really well for. And I'll give you an example of this. I was just doing some consulting for a guy who does SEO and websites in the car detailing space, and they have a really, really kicking ass agency, smart dude, hilarious. But anyway, one of the things they noticed is in their car detailing, when I asked them about the clients that like were really happy with it, almost always they had a real physical shop where people worked there. And the ones who weren't happy had not yet invested into a physical location. They were still mobile detailers and didn't really have a lot of money. And so the qualifying conversation then becomes like, hey, do you have a real physical shop? Because we found our stuff works best for that. And so if they say no to that, then you don't even send them the video in the first place, and that's how it like avoids and weeds out like the kind of bad pain in the ass clients. And we restate this again at the beginning of the video and at the end of the video that like this works really well if you got a physical shop, and then when we make the offer, again, this works really well if you got a physical shop, right? So once we find that like what our most successful clients have in common, you just kind of focus on that. And then so so those are the kind of the missing pieces, and whether we do this in paid traffic, organic, video, I found it works in video, it works in text, it works in audio, like it's the same thing. It doesn't really matter on the media because it works on people, is we throw up a summary of the offer and we generate curiosity and inquiries from that. And then we say, hey, we found it works really well if you meet this condition. Is that true for you? Yes or no? And if they are a good fit, then we send them a video that summarizes the offer, including how much and blah, blah, blah. And that's basically like the self-praise loom process in a nutshell. The only difference is in the paid version that we have in our store at beyondagencyprofits.com. I just go into detail with examples and stuff, so you can see lots of hand raisers and qualifying conversations and stuff like that. Ryan's here, dude. Oh, Seth says he can't hear me. Can you guys hear me? You guys must be able to. Ali says, will your podcast stuff work for getting my clients on podcasts? And the answer to that, my dude, is yes. Podcasts are actually super easy to get on, believe it or not. If you've never done it, it may seem hard. I remember actually the first few times, because you don't know what to say, it's like, at least for me, it was big and daunting, because you're reaching out to these people who have a show and following and all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool. JC can hear me. All right, man. But as far as getting clients on podcasts, like once you understand like what podcast owners want and like the three like most common reasons they started a show and what they're looking for in a guest, you just speak to those reasons, which you were probably going to do anyway. In your show, and then you'll find is it's very easy for them to say yes to you. It becomes a very irresistible offer, and then whenever you want to drum up business, you can go on a show, you can share in other people's audiences, you can add value to them, you can have a little expert interview where you talk about your thing, and people will reach out to you and say, hey, I saw you on such and such. What would it look like to work together? And again, if you guys want, you can take that to the next level and just close those inquiries through video, as we just described. So it all kind of like, that's the kind of expert loop. But and expert interviews are probably the fastest way I found to do that, because it causes people to like go from I've never heard of you to like this person's an expert. I want to find out more about what they do. So if you guys are interested in that, I put a link in the comments, and that's all I got on that. Kyle says, hey guys, I'm running an ad campaign, getting horrible results. I'd appreciate any feedback. Campaign number 2, the yellow flyer. I've done similar ads like this before and had 60, 70, 80 signups. I know there's too much text. I know it's busy. I know it's hard to read. Technically, the experts say it's a horrible ad, but it has gotten me really good results in the past. This time, $450 spend, 886 clicks, 70,000 impressions, only 1 registration, and a sad face. Okay, I'll tell you, Kyle, just so you know, I found nothing to cause more stress to your sanity than Facebook ads. I've probably spent, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 million in client funds on Facebook ads, and then as well, like, I don't know, like 300-400 grand of my own money over the years. And the thing with Facebook ads is, for one, like, there are a lot of moving pieces, and so what screws people up is they suggest technical shit as the answer when it's not technical shit. And the reason I say this is because I saw a lot of replies to your question, and they were like, what campaign setting are you using? What's your daily budget limit? And how much did you increase? And has there been any changes in your targeting? And I'm not saying all of those things don't matter, but Perry Marshall has a thing called forest trees leaves, and it's like leaves are the really tiny shit, and trees are like the medium-sized shit, and the forest is the really big stuff. And what will happen is, in my experience, if you want to move the needle from a little bit to a lot of it quickly, then worry about the big shit. And the big shit is the offer. And the medium-sized shit is your campaign setting and all those things. And I'm not saying all those things won't affect the performance, they will. But if you don't nail the big thing, like, I don't care what you say, that's the other thing. If you don't nail the big thing, the medium and the small shit cannot work. So that's my way of saying, like, basically what you got on your ad, and those of you guys can't see it, but I see it in my notes here. It's a yellow flyer. It says dog obedience classes. Life is so much better with a trained dog. And I would tell you, if you could just focus on like one specific dog problem, and as somebody who has a dog, I can tell you there's only like 3-4 things that probably most dog owners give a shit about. So like one of those things is, it took me a year with my dog, Banana. Every time we came home and somebody came over, she would run excitedly and see you and start jumping on you when you got home. And problem is, little doggies got claws, and we live in a space where it's warm enough to be outdoor all year round. So, like, the dog's always out in the yard. So what happens is you come home, and the dog fucking starts clawing you, like, just viciously attacking you, in a nice, playful way, because she's just excited. And it sucks as an owner, like, tears your pants and rips your clothes. So that's one example. So I might, as a test, run an offer of, like, come in for one class for $99, and I'll show you how to fix it so your dog never jumps on you again, right? Like, we want to solve a specific thing, and try different things, right? You know dogs in this market better than I do. Maybe it's the dog won't stop barking, but have a specific offer to, like, actually get something done that's meaningful in whatever you can do in one session, and start there, and don't finish there. For the people you like that come into one session, offer them more classes. Like, have a second offer ready to go after the first one. But anyway, that's my way of saying, like, worry about the big shit, which is the offer, and the pieces will fall into place. Jake says, has anybody created any VSLs for their pay-per-lead programs that they wouldn't mind sharing? Short version is yes. I've got a few I'd be happy to share with you guys that we've done over the years. I don't like showing my newest stuff because too many people copy me. I've been ripped off so many times over the years, but like showing you guys old stuff that we're not necessarily using right now, I'm happy to share with you guys, and you can kind of like just see it for yourself. Sometimes it's easier to see it than to try and replicate it or whatever. So anybody who's interested in that, give me a holler. I'll share those, and that's that. Adrian says, anyone have some DM scripts for booking new clients in cold outreach? So Adrian, this is going to inspire the Frankie Finn rant of all rants. So, take you guys a little bit back. When I first got started on the internet, the first person I met online that was actually like doing the same kind of work I was and was successful at it is another guy in our group named Dave Miz, the Mizraki, the Meme King, and who's got an awesome agency, by the way. So I forget what I was going to tell you guys that. I guess I lost my train of thought. Let me just grab the question here. Oh, DM scripts. Oh, and so Dave was in a world that I had never even heard of called the Pickup Artist World. And this was a space on the internet where guys were teaching other guys, like, you know, what had been successful with women. And a lot of it was very sleazy about how to get laid. Some of it was more, how to find your dream girl. Some of it was about getting married. But a lot of it was like sleazy kind of like pickup stuff. And the most interesting thing that always caught people's attention in that space was the script. Like, what's the magic line you're going to say that's going to get you laid? And I'm here to tell you that if you're like a real human being that lives in the real world, there is no magic fucking script that works on everybody. And so the reason I say that is because like all the pickup guys I would see that were asking for magic scripts over and over and over and over and over and over again were disappointed, chasing bullshit because it doesn't really exist. And so because they kept looking for some magic copy and paste sentence that they would say that would work every time, they missed the deeper just how to navigate a real fucking conversation with another real human being, right? And so that's my way of saying I also created a guide for the ultimate guide for cold outreach. It's just showing you guys what we do. It's not the way, but it's worked really, really well for us over the years. And it's really about understanding how to navigate these conversations and like the principles of like how to talk to anyone anytime. Like, you know, you guys will notice, for those of you guys who pick up the podcast pitch, I say the same shit over and over, right? It's like it's a little bit, it's unique and personalized to each person, but I say the same shit to every podcast over and over and over and over. Like, I don't have to really think that hard about it. Like, you know, I just got to like slightly tweak it to each person, but it's the same thing every time. And because of that, it's better than a script. It's what I call a framework. And so just that one change in word for, does anyone have any fire script? Does anyone have any framework? Will make you much more successful in this world, because it's asking a better question, and you'd be amazed at how much faster we advance in business and life in general when we start asking ourselves the right question instead of asking like, and essentially where this question comes from is often from like a place of struggle of trying to find a shortcut. And I understand wanting to find a shortcut, but there is no magic script. And so I don't want to be the guy who puts out bullshit to you guys on the internet. If you're looking for a magic script, I don't have it, but neither does anyone else, right? Like, there is no magic thing that you're going to say. And even if there was a magic script that worked, because occasionally people do figure out a set of words that works on a group of people, what happens is 10,000 other asshole marketers come in and copy it and give it 6 to 12 months, and it will stop working because everybody says it. So if you learn the frameworks, you never have to change your approach. You figure it out once, you get the skill forever. If you figure out a magic script, if you happen to find gold, it'll work for a little while until everyone else says the same shit as you. And you're seeing that now with the booked appointments. It's like probably the first person who said that crushed it. It was a very unique offer, and they were the first ones to make it. Now that like the 10,000th person is pitching us the same thing, it's like it's lost its kind of luster. So, anyways, no scripts, no magic scripts. Look for real shit. Dan says, hi all, question for anyone with knowledge on working on a commission-only basis. I may potentially be running ads for a buyer's agent in property, and let's assume he wants to pay commission only. I don't know this yet, but I get the impression that their first email and I want to be prepared. I would be sending leads to an instant form, then he would handle the rest. How would I know if he converts one of my leads after I lose sight of the lead as soon as he clicks learn more? Obviously, I'll get automated info on the lead, but that won't be of any help. Any thoughts would be the most appreciated. P.S. This could be a good one for the main man, me, but can't wait till Monday. I shared some thoughts, but I wanted to go deeper for those of you guys who are in similar situations as Dan. So I prefer to remove the word commission. Commission is like a sales word. I like the idea of like being paid on results, which is essentially what we're all going to do. Like, you're not going to keep retainer clients for a long time, by the way, if there's no results either, right? So it's like we're essentially trading to a like paid on results model. And I think the most important thing that people misunderstand about this model is it's really about the right partner and the right fit. Just like if you were going to get married, you'd be super selective. You wouldn't just like marry the first person you met at the bar that said a cheesy pickup line to you while drunk. That wouldn't be the first person you'd like, spend the rest of your life with. You'd have to have some things in common and things like that. So everybody almost always asks me the tech tracking question, which is like, how do I track it? What do I blah? And my answer to that is like really simple, is like, it's offers. Create a unique offer that's related to you. So if they have and what I usually do is just take the offer that's working for them and build on it. So like if come look at a house with me for a 1-hour consultation is working, if that's the offer that's getting people to talk to them, then I might say, come talk to me about a house for an hour and get a $20 Starbucks gift card, right? Like, now all of a sudden, everybody that requests the gift card came through me, that kind of thing. And then I don't have to worry so much about the tech and the tools and the things like that. And I'm not saying those things don't matter, but hear me out on this second part, okay? The way we find out whether partners are trustworthy enough is we always test them small. So like if you're doing like this kind of commission or results-based or revenue share or whatever you want to call it, what I do is just a little small piece of the puzzle and see whether or not how they handle the payment and how they handle the communication. And if it's not good, we walk away. Like, there's no reason to commit to a partner. And then the flip side of that is You can have all the tracking in the world, and somebody still may not fucking pay you. Found that out the hard way, by the way. When I first started dabbling in this kind of performance being paid model in 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere in that range. And I found out you can have perfect tracking, all the tools in place, measuring, recorded phone calls. We were using Twilio, and we could record phone calls. This is 12 years ago, long before Go High Level popularized it. And people still wouldn't fucking pay you for that. Now, the flip side of that is when you have the right partner, somebody I've done a revenue share partner with, they just sent me a message a couple of days ago and said, hey, there's a $5,500 commission for you, which obviously doesn't suck. And I'm like, hey, that's really fucking cool. I didn't even know it was from. What's this even from, right? That's cool. And the right partners are trying to go out of their way to keep their partners happy because they know it's a long-term relationship that benefits both people. And so that's my way of saying, with the right partner, I have zero tracking. It's entirely on the fucking honor system, and yet the money still shows up. And I've had the wrong partners, and I've had airtight. I can listen to every phone fucking recording they have and hear whether or not deals close and know the progress and have people's contact info and vet them and check them, and they still don't fucking pay you. So that's my way of saying, the most important detail is the partner, not the tracking. And if you can do that, what I suggest is, just test them small and see how they handle small transactions. Are they easy to work with? Are the people easy to help? Do they actually pay you? If those things are yeses, continue. If they're not, then just call it an end at a first date. And I'll tell you why most people can't handle this model in that sense. Because it doesn't come attached to big guarantees. There's the possibility, which drives most people crazy, which you may do work and not get paid for it. And so you have to be intelligent about how you manage those kind of first dates. You're not going to invest a lifetime into somebody and then find out they're not going to pay you. You want to think about how can we do something small and meaningful right away and see how they handle it. So I hope that's helpful. That's probably a different question than you were asking, but I wanted you to understand because everybody always asks me about the tech tracking, and the tech tracking is less important than just getting the right fit for somebody who you can win with together long term, and how you can test that as fast as humanly possible. So hope that makes sense. Adam says, for paid media, do you charge a flat rate management fee or markup on the ad spend? We will not be paying for client ad spends, but it seems like charging $500 a month to manage $500 to $1,000 per month in ad spend is not selling very well. Would it be better to say we charge 50% markup on the ad spend? This is one of those things, Adam. I feel like this is a theme today, where it's a good question, but it's focused on I think the thing that is making your life difficult. So here's what I mean by that. Okay, so the question implies how do I kind of package this little $500 ad spend to $1,000 ad spend per month, and how do I set up the pricing because I'm getting all this resistance about it. And the issue is not the resistance, is the resistance you're getting and not the package. And I believe the resistance is, and it took me probably 10 years to figure this out, is it's not about your packaging. You're literally just talking to too small a fish. And so what happens is when you talk to clients who spend a little teeny tiny bit of ad money for their business each month, they tend to very much be dabblers. They throw a little bit of money, but it's very timid money, and they're very quick to pull back. And so what happens is, and understandably, I think many people have been there, and I've been there, so I'm not throwing any judgment, but you're kind of desperate a lot of times in those situations, right? And so in this business model, it doesn't really work that well with desperate clients who fucking need it to work yesterday. That's way too intense a pressure, and you're going to find most of the clients at the $500 to $1,000 a month, 95% of them or more fit that description where they're desperate and they kind of really need it to work and they don't have any patience and and you'll just feel that pressure and it'll never be cheap enough, fast enough, or good enough. And it's not you, it's not your packaging, it's a client selection issue. And so my suggestion is so much simpler, which is find the people who are actually actively spending money to grow this kind, and not just somebody who's doing this once or twice, somebody who might have 10 locations or 20 locations, and figure out how to add value to that person. And what you'll find is you can sell often the same service with worse packaging and sell it for like $5,000-$10,000 a month and get it and have people be happy that they paid you. And usually, by the way, the other issue is the small spenders typically do not have dialed in sales processes where like they answer the phone quickly and they have a professional come quote out and they have a follow-up system and they have emails and you're in a CRM and you're tracked and they can tell you what happened with every lead and did a salesperson. No, they're more just like, let's try a little bit of ad money. Ooh, that didn't work. Let's not do it anymore. And so what happens is, I always say there's 2 sales you have to make if you got a pay-per-click thing. The first sale is you should advertise in your business, and 2 is with me. And I'm telling you, it's the first one that's the hard sale. And so when you have small spenders who are like just breaking into pay-per-click and things like that, like you're going to constantly have to sell them on pay-per-click is worthwhile instead of just finding people who already spend on pay-per-click and then figure out how you can get them better ads or cheaper or fill a specific location or things like that. You'll make your life so much easier if you focus on the people, and this is true to all of you guys, regardless of which service you deliver. Focus on the people who are actively spending money in your marketplace. It took me, like for real, like 10 years to figure this out, but 80% of the people in your market, doesn't matter whether you do dentists, e-commerce, plumbers, coaches and consultants, at least 80% of the people in your market will waste your fucking time. Not necessarily in terms of like they're bad people and they're like trying to get you and take your time, but they literally just aren't good partners for being an agency with them or being their service provider. So what we want to do is focus on the 20% who are, and you have to be like really selective. And I'll tell you, it's a cheat code. Just focus on the people who are actively spending money and ignore everybody else. That means like if I go into a new city and there's like 2,500 lawyers, I'm focused on like the 5 or 10 who spend all the fucking money. Like I don't care that there's 2,490 other fucking lawyers. I want the ones who are actively like spending the most to grow. And you'd be amazed that like those clients are actually easier to help because they have systems and process in places that complement what you do. Katie, can anyone share what their onboarding timeline looks like? Good question, Katie. Okay, so just so you know, I'm trying to give an answer that's not just useful for you here, but everybody listening. And so the answer is always it depends. And here's what it depends on. The biggest variable is how long your shit takes to work. So if you're doing like SEO and you might get a client and it might be 6 months before pay dirt, you're going to have a way more intense onboarding and communication process than say you're sending a database reactivation and they get 3 leads, first thing in the morning, right? So because, it took a day, because there's a huge amount of like trust and faith that has to be put into somebody for like 6 months to build something for them. So I consider onboarding personally to be like 2 different pieces, and I wrote this in the book. The first part is like welcoming people, and the thing is, whenever somebody makes like a big high ticket purchase, there's a psychological principle that sets in called buyer's remorse. And here's what buyer's remorse means. It's like anytime you buy something big and expensive, there is a background thought of regret that immediately thinks, I'm going to look really fucking stupid for what I just did. And I'm going to have to tell other people, like, I'm the guy that ripped off for the timeshare. I bought into this stupid marketing service. Yeah, I said, like, for me, when I have one of those stories, I said, like, I don't know, I want to say like $4 or $5 grand to a freelancer who was supposed to do Facebook ads in Serbia, and I never heard from him again after that, right? Like we all have some of those stories, and so everybody has that fear, like that's going to happen to me. And so before you go and tell people like the second part of onboarding, you just have to like in a way reassure them, you just made a good decision, you're in a good place. You're really smart for making this decision, and there's lots of different ways to do that. Like I like welcome gifts. You can thank them in video, and we're actually, by the way, big announcement. We're going to have Joey Coleman on tomorrow, who is the author of Never Lose a Customer Again, and he's going to talk about this topic in detail. But what was I going to say? So the 2 parts, yeah. So onboarding is part 1, is what I call the grand welcome. And then part 2 is what do you actually need to get started? Do you need logins and passwords? And then If you're looking at the timeline after that, you welcome them, and you've got the information you need to get started. The last piece of the puzzle is communicating what I call building the house. And the example I use is in the book. Like, I had a neighbor build a house, and I asked him, like, hey, you got a nice house. Like, how was that? And he said it was the worst fucking experience of my life, which really, really caught me off guard. Because, I wasn't expecting to hear that. And I said, why? And he explained to me that when he bought his house, he bought it sight unseen, meaning he was living in America and sent, like, a bunch of money to a company in Mexico. And it was basically his life savings. So everything he had saved up and worked for over like 20 years, 30 years, I don't know, however long he had worked for it, he saved it up and he sent it to this guy to get this house. And then he heard nothing. And for weeks and weeks, he couldn't get anybody to respond back to him. Then he said, eventually he got a thing in the mail, and it was just like a one-page Spanish document. It was too technical, and he couldn't understand it. And I said, how did the story end? And he said, I drove down and came to the house, and everything was built perfectly. And I want you guys to know that, like, if you're building a house, something that like takes time for people, they need to be in the communication loop about, like, hey, we're putting down the foundation, we're putting up walls today, we're putting in electrical, the windows are going in, we're fixing a toilet, we're a little bit behind the schedule on the toilet, but Freddie's going to come in and work overtime and we're going to catch that up. Or we're waiting on some building materials and things like that. And so you want to do the equivalent of that for whatever that is for your service. And the ultimate example of that is SEO. You have to make a big deal out of all the little things you're doing until the rankings kick in enough that it's very obvious that, you're driving them a whole bunch of business and leads and all that kind of good stuff. Jane says, hey, I'm bringing in 200 Facebook leads per month in the medical niche. The sales team is saying that half the leads aren't contactable. The contact details are correct, but the prospect doesn't reply to phone, email, or text after multiple attempts. This is despite the prospect opting in on a long-form landing page where they have to enter their name, email, phone number, dog's name, and if they have pet insurance. They are also shown the price of the treatment right before they opt in. Any ideas why this could be happening? So Jane, obviously, like anything without the context, there could be a lot of things happening, but I'll tell you the most likely thing that jumped out at me, and I was confirmed by this when I saw the comments and your responses below. So we found out in the legal industry, this was not my research, just, like people I know that, do this professionally, nonstop, every day for a living. They found out that there's a magic number of 3 minutes. And 3 minutes is from the time somebody fills out a form on the damn website and says, I would like somebody to contact me, where if you call them, that person will be reachable. And there's a very simple reason. Like, we live in an instant gratification world. They wanted it, when they filled out a form like, hey, somebody talk to me, I had this issue, they want somebody to talk to them, like, right fucking now. Like, because I'm on my lunch at work, and I can take the phone call. They didn't mean it 3 hours from now, or 12 hours, or 24 hours or 48 hours. And so when I saw your thing say that we try and get back to them within 48 hours, like, that's 47 hours and 23 or 59 or 57 minutes too late. Like, a lot of time, basically. Like, it's way too long. There may be other issues with how you're framing that incoming conversation and who you're targeting and things like that. It's hard to say for sure without looking at it. But I'll tell you, if people are unreachable, like they filled out a long form and they're unreachable, the most common reason I've seen for that to happen is the company that is doing the calling is just too fucking slow. And this is a pain in the thorn, by the way, for a lot of people in the marketing world who work with local businesses, where they generate leads and phone calls for local businesses, and then those local businesses are slow as fuck in responding. One thing that may help you with that is go high level. And we have a special offer actually on our website for Go High Level for a phoneless booking funnel. And the idea is, rather than putting that in clients' hands, which introduces so many problems because they're probably going to be slow at calling people back because they're just a local business and they're generally shit at it. And they say dumb stuff and they can't answer basic questions and they don't close people and they don't invite them in for the free consultation and on and on and on. is just to let people in the forum self-select using Go High Level, book a time, and then use the magic of automation to bring that person into the office. Because a lot of times, they're medical especially, they're so much better in person because there's like a smiling secretary in a beautifully aesthetic office. What they're bad with is in this thing in between a lead filled out on a website and we need to get that person in. And so if you fill that gap with tools like Go High Level and automation or some kind of other solution like like a live transfer, what will happen is those leads will actually convert, clients will love you, and then they won't say they're all fucking bad leads, because that's essentially what you're getting, by the way, which is happens to us all at some point. You're getting bad leads. They're all fucking shit. When did you call them? I called them 2 days later. You imagine, like, for example, you filled out, I don't know, an Uber Eats thing because you wanted some sushi. And then, 2 days later, they felt like bringing the sushi. Or they said, oh, they messaged you back 2 days later, right? Like, how would you feel, right? So that's what you have to think about is like, when I wanted sushi, I was hungry and I wanted it now, not later, right? So that's how it has to be, and it's hard to train local businesses to do that. It is not hard to train technology to do that for you. It's just a calendar booking, some automated reminders. Hey, here's what you signed up for, a text message to let them know, 2 emails. Hey, your appointment is coming up in an hour. Will we see you? If you need to reschedule, do that here, that kind of thing. And what you'll find is, lo and behold, the business will get what they want, which is people will come in and they will convert and they will credit you for that and they will pay you over and over for that. So if you're interested in that, we have a phoneless booking funnel on the site as well. So anyways, I think that's it, what we got for the questions, unless one of you guys wants to add something else. Yeah, it looks like, oh, I see, I missed Paul 28 minutes ago. Sometimes like comment or two gets missed. I don't know how, I see him like well after the fact. It's weird. I see it in the Facebook Live like console, and it just looks a little bit different than normal Facebook, and sometimes they're a little bit out of order. But for those of you guys who missed the intro, 3 big announcements that I wanted to share with you guys. The first one is I'm working on book number 2, and book number 2 is about a magic phrase that has been near and dear to my heart the last 5 years, called passive automated recurring income. And it's about helping you guys to do something once and create recurring revenue streams for yourself into the future that don't require ongoing effort and things like that are often delivered and fulfilled by other people and software and tools and things like that, so that you just get like easy peasy recurring payments. So that's in progress. I don't know when I'll be finished writing that. Like, the writing process is what it is. I finish when I finish. But you guys will be the first to know, and you guys will be the first to have access to that, even before it goes on Amazon and stuff like that, just because you guys are the best. I love you guys, and I couldn't deny you guys this, because it has been a life changer for us. Second thing is been revamping the Wolfpack. As I mentioned earlier, I'm actually trying to make it the most boring, predictable fucking machine in the world, based on stuff that never changes. Like, I know there's a lot of hype that goes behind, like, for a while it was the TikTok agency, then it was like the NFTs, and you got to get on crypto and things like that. And we still do, some crypto consulting and things like that. But nothing is sexier than just building something that like lasts and is easy and is built on like foundations that are not really changing. And that's what I've been focused on, is doing our process at scale for having people find you as the expert and send them a video, and they sign up to work with you and pay you, and they're easy peasy and they're low maintenance and all of that good stuff. So that's the direction we're headed in that, and I'm building slowly more help so that people, as they sign up, have just an insane amount of tools and resources to help them succeed in that. And I always say it's simple, it's not easy. Simple means there's not a lot of complexity and there's not a lot of moving pieces, but easy is a different story. Never want to sell you guys like, oh, this is the easiest business in the world. Anyone can do that. I actually don't believe that anyone can do what we do. But for those of you guys who are ready to go phoneless, eliminate the meetings and stuff like that, like, that's the best way I found to do it. The only meetings I actually have are content creation, where like a couple times a week I'll do an interview. And if that's kind of your style, where you guys like a couple times a week, feel like being interviewed, you share some cool ideas, and then you go back to your cave and pick up your checks. That's what we're building. Again, simple, not easy, but very, very much doable, and doable for you, especially if you sold your services over the phone. It's like kind of a no-brainer. And then the third thing that I wanted to mention is we are launching a little piece of that puzzle, what I call my podcast expert kind of course, which I finished putting together late last night, right before my Lions won a playoff game for the first time in 30-something years. Woo! And anyways, I'm a big believer in clients seeing you guys as expert heart surgeons. I came to you because you're the most recommended professional kind of vibe, and the opposite of what everybody else wants to be, a sleazy door-to-door used car salesman. Hey, there's a marketer in there. Nobody ever gets excited to hear that kind of situation, and have you guys do it. And one of the best ways we found to do that is with podcasts. And as I mentioned, like, I didn't know this when I first started getting on shows. It seemed like a big deal, and they were super intimidating and all that. But the podcasts are actually really dog shit easy to get on. Like, we do it with like 3 sentences, and it's like I say the same thing every time. It's a little bit different. I tweak it a little bit to each person, but it's just about knowing what they want and why they started the show, and the things that all podcast owners have in common, and helping to fulfill that with the irresistible offer. And the benefit of it is you can get interviewed whenever the hell you want, and you can drive endless amounts of inbound. And to me, it's a far better use of your time to spend 1 hour making a podcast with somebody who has an audience of 10,000 people in your industry than it is to try and message those 10,000 people one at a time. And not just because of the energy efficiency, but at the end of the podcast, people are going to come to you and say, hey, you're an expert. I saw you on so-and-so's podcast. Versus if you do it where you cold message all those people, like, they're going to look at you as like a door-to-door salesperson, like, what the fuck do you want? Do you want to buy one of these? No? Okay. And it's, has massive amounts of rejection and effort and grinding and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, I put a link somewhere in the comments, and hope you dig that. I see one from Ryan says, long comment, Frankie, but I would like to connect offline here and ask a question on the Wolfpack, but thank you, I'll reach out. Cool, dude. Always open to discuss and all of that. And as you guys know, you guys can always initiate a conversation with us. Like, part of our video closing voodoo is that we let you take it or leave it and decide what's right for you, and nobody's like there looking over your shoulder to try and convince you. So like, whenever you have a question or you want to know something, like, nobody's going to bite your hand, nobody's going to hard pitch you. There's no like 10,000 annoying follow-ups you didn't sign up for or anything like that. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Much love. I'm going to head downstairs with the kiddos, and that's all I got. Much love, and may the force be with you guys. Happy Monday.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.